Shalom, Lekem, Kol Yisrael. How's your peace, Israel? Welcome back to another video. And the topic at hand today is wars and conflicts. Okay? We're coming out of the Tanakh, Hebrew to English translation. You might not be able to see that. JPS, if anyone wants to know what the publisher is. And we're going to pick it up in the book of Yahushai, which is Joshua. We're going to be in chapter 10, verse 1. Okay, and it reads on this wise. The king of Adonizedek of Jerusalem learned that Joshua had captured Ai and proscribed it, treating Ai and its king as he had treated Jericho and its king, and that, moreover, the people of Gibeon had come to terms with Israel and remained among them. He was very frightened, for Gibeon was a large city like one of the royal cities, in fact larger than Ai, and all its men were warriors. So King Adonizedek of Jerusalem sent this message, and King Hoham of Hebron, king of Piram of Yeremoth, king of Yaphai of Lachish, king of Debir of Eglon, come up and help me defeat Gibeon, for it has come to terms with Joshua and the Israelites. The 5 Amorite kings, the king of Jerusalem, the king of Hebron, the king of Yeremoth, the king of Lachish, and the king of Eglon, with all their armies, joined forces and marched on Gibeon, and encamped against it and attacked it. The people of Gibeon thereupon sent this message to Yahushua or Joshua in the camp of Gilgal: Do not fail your servants, come up quickly, aid us and deliver us, for all the Amorite kings of the hill country have gathered against us. So Joshua marched up from Gilgal with his whole fighting force and all the trained warriors. The Lord said to Joshua, Do not be afraid of them, for I will deliver them into your hands. Not one of them shall withstand you. Joshua took them by surprise, marching all night from Gilgal. The Lord threw them into panic before Israel. Joshua inflicted a crushing defeat on them at Gibeon, pursued them in the direction of Beth Horon, Asen, and harried them all the way to Ezekah and Makkedah. While they were fleeing before Israel down the descent from Beth Horon, the Lord hurled huge stones on from the sky all the way to Hezekah, and they perished. More perished from the hailstones than were killed by the Israelite weapons. On that occasion, when the Lord routed the Amorites before the Israelites, Joshua addressed the Lord. He said in the presence of the Israelites, Stand still, O son of Gibeon, O moon in the valley of Ajalon. And the sun stood still, and the moon halted, while a nation reached judgment on its foes, as it is written in the book of Yasher. Thus the sun halted in mid-haven, and did not press on to set for a whole day. For the Lord fought for Israel, neither before nor since there ever been such a day when the Lord acted on words spoken by man. Then Joshua, together with all Israel, returned to the camp of Gilgal. Meanwhile, those 5 kings led and hid in a cave at Makkedah. When it was reported to Joshua that the 5 kings had been found hiding in a cave at Makkedah, Joshua ordered, Roll large stones up against the mouth of the cave, and post men over it to keep guard over them. But as for the rest of you, don't stop but press on the heels of your enemies and harass them from the rear. Don't let them reach their towns, for the Lord your God has delivered them into your hands. When Joshua and the Israelites had finished dealing with them a deadly blow, they were wiped out, except for some fugitives who escaped into the fortified towns. The whole army returned in safety to Joshua in the camp of Makkedah. No one so much as snarled at the Israelites. And now Joshua ordered, Open the mouth of the cave and bring those 5 kings out of the cave to me. This was done. Those 5 kings, the king of Jerusalem, the king of Hebron, the king of Yeremoth, the king of Lachish, the king of Eglon, were brought out to him from the cave. And when the kings were brought out to Joshua, Joshua summoned all the men of Israel and ordered the army officers who had accompanied him, Come forward and place your feet on the necks of these kings. They came forward and placed their feet on the necks. Joshua said to them, Do not be frightened or dismayed. Be firm and resolute, for this is what the Lord is going to do to all the enemies with whom you are at war." After that, Joshua had put to death and impaled on 5 stakes, and they remained impaled on the stakes until evening. At sunset, Joshua ordered them take down the poles and thrown into the cave in which they had hidden. Large stones were placed over the mouth of the cave, and there they are to this very day. At that time Joshua captured Makkedah and put it and its king to the sword, prescribing it and every person in it, and leaving none that escaped. And he treated the king of Makkedah, and as he treated the king of Jericho. From Makkedah Joshua proceeded with all Israel to Libnah, and he attacked it. The Lord delivered it and its king into the hands of Israel. They put it and all the people in it to the sword, letting none escape. And he treated its king as he had treated the king of Jericho. From Libnah Joshua proceeded with all Israel to Lachish, and he encamped against it and attacked it. The Lord delivered Lachish into the hands of Israel. They captured it on the 2nd day, and put it all and the people in it to the sword, just as they had done to Libnah. At that time King Horam and Gezer marched to help Lachish, but Joshua defeated him and his army, letting none of them escape. From Lachish Joshua proceeded with all Israel to Eglon. They encamped against it and attacked it. They captured it on the same day and put to the sword, prescribing all the people that were in it, as they had done to Lachish. From Eglon Joshua marched with all Israel to Hebron and attacked it. They captured it and put its king and all its towns and all the people that were in it to the sword. He let none escape, prescribing it and all the people in it, just as he had done in the case of Eglon. Joshua and all Israel and him then turned back to Debir and attacked it. He captured it and its kings and all its towns. They put them to the sword and prescribed all the people in it. They let none escape, just as they had done it to Hebron, and as they had done to Libnah and its king, so they did to Debir and its king. Joshua conquered the whole country, the hill country of the Negeb, the Shephelah, and the slopes, with all their kings. He let none escape, but prescribed everything that breathed, as the Lord, the God of Israel, had commanded. Joshua conquered them from Kadesh Barnea to Gaza, all the land of Goshen, and up to Gibeon. All those kings and their lands were conquered by Joshua at a single stroke, for the Lord, the God of Israel, fought for Israel. Then Joshua with all Israel returned to the camp of Gilgal. Chapter 11. When the news reached King Jabin of Hazor, he sent messages to King Yobab of Madon, the king of Shimron, to the king of Achshaph, and to the other kings in the north, in the hill country, in the Arabah, south of Chinnereth, in the lowlands, and in the district of Dor on the west, to the Canaanites in the east, and in the west to the Amorites, Hittites, Perizzites, and Jebusites in the hill country, and to the Hivites at the foot of Hermon in the land of Mizpah. They took the field with all the armies, an enormous host, as numerous as the sands of the seashore, and a vast multitude of horse and chariots. All these things joined forces. They came and encamped together at the waters of Merom to give battle to Israel. But the Lord said to Joshua, "Do not be afraid of them. Tomorrow at this time I will have them all lying slain before Israel. You shall hamstrung their horses and burn their chariots." So Joshua with all his fighting men came upon them suddenly at waters of Merom and pounced upon them. The Lord delivered them into the hands of Israel, and they defeated them and pursued them all the way to Great Sidon and Mizreph-Fothamaim, and all the way to valley of Mizpeh on the east. They crushed them, letting none escape, and Joshua dealt with them as the Lord had ordered him. He hamstrung their horses and burned their chariots. Joshua then turned back and captured Hazor and put her king to the sword. Hazor was formerly the head of all those kingdoms. They prescribed and put to the sword every person in it. Not a soul survived, and Hazor itself was burned down. Joshua captured all those royal cities and their kings. He put them to the sword. He proscribed them in accordance with the charge of Moses, the servant of the Lord. However, all those towns that are still standing on their molds were not burned down by Israel. It was Hazor alone that Joshua burned down. The Israelites kept all the spoil and cattle of the rest of those cities as booty, but they cut down their populations with the sword until they exterminated them. They did not spare a soul, just as the Lord had commanded his servant Moses. So Moses had charged Joshua, and so Joshua did. He left nothing undone of all the Lord had commanded Moses. Joshua conquered the whole of this region, the hill country of Judah, the Negev, the whole land of Goshen, and Shephelah, and the Arabah, and the hill country of coastal plain of Israel. Everything from Mount Halak, which ascends to Seir, all the way to Baal Gad, in the valley of Lebanon, at the foot of Mount Hermon, and he captured all the kings there and executed them. Joshua waged war with all those kings over a long period, apart from the Hivites who dwelt in Gibeon. Not a single city made terms with the Israelites. All were taken in battle, for it was the Lord's doing to stiffen their hearts to give battle to Israel, in order that they might be proscribed without quarter, and wiped out as the Lord had commanded Moses. At that time Joshua went and wiped out the Anakites from the hill country, from Hebron, Debir, and Anab, from the entire hill country of Judah, from the entire hill country of Israel. Joshua proscribed them and their towns. No Anakites remained in the land of the Israelites, but some remained in Gaza, Gath, and Ashdod. Thus Joshua conquered the whole country, just as the Lord had promised Moses, and Joshua assigned it to Israel to share, according to the tribal divisions, and the land had rest from war. So we're dealing with the wars and conflicts, and Yahushua, he did a mighty work, didn't he? You see. So let's read. We're going to go into the book of Maccabees. We're going to go in from chapter 1, and we're going to read from verse 1. Okay. And it reads on this wise. And it happened after that Alexander, son of Philip, the Macedonian, who came out of the land of Chittim, had smitten Darius, king of the Persians and Medes, that he reigned in his stead, the first over Greece, and made many wars, and won many strongholds, and slew the kings of the earth, went through to the ends of the earth, and took spoils of many nations, insomuch that the earth was quiet before him. Whereupon he was exalted, and his heart was lifted up, and he gathered a mighty strong host, and ruled over countries and nations and kings, who became tributaries unto him. And after these things he fell sick, and perceived that he should die. Wherefore he called his servants, such as were honourable, and he had been brought up with him from his youth, and parted his kingdom among them, while he was yet alive. So Alexander reigned 12 years, and then died, and his servants bare rule, every one in his place. And after his death they all put crowns upon themselves. So did their sons after them many years, and evils were multiplied on the earth. Okay, that's dealing with the Grecian Empire. The wars there. It doesn't go into so much. All right. Now let's go into. We're gonna close up in the book of the book of Jubilees, chapter 34, verse 1. We're gonna read from to verse 9. And in the 6th year of this week of this 44th Jubilee, Jacob sent his sons to pasture their sheep, and his servants with them to pasture of Shechem. And the 7 kings of the Amorites assembled themselves against them, to slay them, hiding themselves under the trees, and to take their cattle as prey. And Jacob and Levi and Judah and Joseph were in the house with Isaac their father, for his spirit was sorrowful, and they could not leave him. Benjamin was the youngest, and for this reason remained with his father. And there came the king of Taphu, and the king of Arazah, and the king of Seragan, and the king of Selo, and the kings of Gaas, and the king of Bethoron, and the king of Ma'anasika, and all those who dwell in these mountains, and who dwell in the woods in the land of Canaan. And they announced this to Jacob, saying, Behold, the kings of the Amorites have surrounded thy sons and plundered their herds. And he arose from his house, and he and his 3 sons, and all the servants of his father, and his own servants, and they went against them with 6,000 men who carried swords. And he slew them in the pastures of Shechem, and pursued them who fled, and he slew them with the edge of the sword. And he slew Arias, and Taphu, and Seragan, and Selu, and Amanesekah, and Gaas, and he recovered his herds. And he prevailed against them, and imposed tribute on them, that they should pay him tribute 5 fruit products of their land. And he built Rebel and Tamnateres, and he returned in peace and made peace with them, and they became his servants until the day that he and his sons went down into Egypt. Okay, that's just a short snippet. I know there's other wars that take place in the scriptures, but these are some of the prominent, or maybe some of the scriptures that you may have not come across. So I only hope the reader and listen to this word will be blessed by what we've read. We're all dealing with the wars and the conflicts. So may Yahweh bless you. May Yahweh keep you. May Yahweh cause his face to shine upon you. May Yahweh be gracious to you. May Yahweh lift up his countenance upon you. And may Yahweh grant you everlasting peace in Yahshua. And Mashiach's name I pray. Selah.